everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we will be going over the Goldman Sachs Working Conditions Survey and talking about it from the point of view of an investment banker versus a consultant. For those who don't know what the Goldman Sachs Working Conditions Survey is, I did a video on this previously, which I will link in the description box below. But basically, it was an informal survey conducted by 13 junior investment bankers working at the Goldman Sachs New York City office. The survey goes over 24 questions in which the analysts describe their 100-hour work weeks, inhumane working conditions, and their lack of sleep. And for those who don't know my background, I worked in investment banking at a bulge bracket firm in New York City up until this year, where I quit during the COVID-19 crisis. And to talk about the consultant's point of view, I have the lovely Kajol here, who is based in the UK. She works at a Big Four consultancy firm, and I will just have her do a quick introduction for herself.
Hey everyone, my name is Kajol. I am a consultant. If you couldn't tell by the accent, I'm based in London in the UK. And on my channel, I talk about consulting, side hustles, and soon to be money and personal finance. So come check my channel out. And I am really excited for this collaboration because we are going to be comparing the Goldman Sachs report, yes, how controversial, to consulting. Here we go.
Rate your mental health before investment banking versus now. So prior to investment banking, my mental health was probably at around a 7 or an 8. I was a senior in college, not too much happening there. But during investment banking, I would call my mental health around a 4 or 5, and when it was work from home, probably closer to a 3 or a 4. So it went from around an 8 to a 4, and I am deducting 1 point for the constant anxiety that I felt during the job and even now after. Another point because I was constantly thinking about work even when I wasn't working. Deducting 1 more point for a lot of the personal relationships with friends and time that I had to sacrifice for this job. And deducting the very last point for the sometimes aggressive nature of some of the people in the job. I find that managers in this job really fall into 2 buckets. 1, the type of people who were mistreated when they themselves were juniors in investment banking, and now they feel that they should do the same and the vicious cycle continues. Or they fall into the second bucket where they've been through these grueling hours and mistreatment, and now they know what it feels like, and so they don't treat junior analysts like that. As for my physical health, it was probably closer to an 8 prior to investment banking, and during likely around a 2. When we were in the office and working from home, the only exercise I was really getting was my walk into the office. I stayed about a 25-minute walk away, and I usually try to make that morning walk happen. However, given that, now that we were work from home, I was basically just sitting on my butt all day from morning until late at night. I don't have the best posture. I'm slouchy when I'm in my chair. And so that, along with the lack of exercise, just resulted in poor physical health for me. You need to make that personal time instead of waiting for your work to allow it. Especially during work from home, that time may never come because it seems like everyone is always on. So you need to make off time for yourself. Let's hear what Kajol has to say about the consultant's point of view.
This is one of the reasons why I didn't choose banking, because the hours you work in banking is absolutely insane. In consulting, I feel like I work max 60 hours a week-ish, I would say, on a good week. So I think I start around 9 a.m, finish around 7, 8 p.m. on a really bad day, 11, 12, midnight. I have worked till 4 a.m, and I rarely work weekends, but let's say in a year, I'll probably work 5 to 6 weekends. So yeah, it's not as bad as banking where you're pretty much working every weekend, depending on which part of banking you sit in. But I do feel that with consulting, a whole job is like you're talking to people. So most of the time I'm in Zoom calls from like 9 to 5 p.m. and after that I need to work. So I feel mentally drained and I feel like you can't really switch off in consulting, where basically even if I'm going for dinner with my friends, I'm thinking about work. In the shower, I'm thinking about work, and it's so toxic. So sometimes I feel like mental health could be way better in consulting. I also do feel that, we put on the pounds in consulting because free dinners, hotel, overnight stays when we used to be able to travel. And obviously I'm sitting on my butt the whole day now in the pandemic. So yeah, not really good on physical health. By the time I finish work, it's dark outside and it's cold, so I'm not going to go out and walk. So it's really difficult to be physically and mentally sane, although a lot of consulting firms are trying to give breaks and be a bit more human over the pandemic, I do feel. If you want to do something about this, you don't have to quit your consulting banking job. All you need to do is speak to your boss, tell them that you've got these certain commitments you need to make. You maybe fit your work around it. So don't live to work, work to live.
So next question, have you frequently experienced deadlines? Investment banking is nothing besides deadlines. Nearly everything is ASAP. You can expect to get an email at 10 p.m. at night and have a meeting at 8 a.m. the next day. When things like this happen, it's important to understand when and how to push back. Instead of making this a 5 a.m. night for yourself, try to finish it by 1 or 2 a.m. by pushing back on some of the work that's requested of you.
Oh boy, I totally agree with this one. And I feel that consultants, at the end of the day, our clients are the ones who make the demands for us. And of course, the more time that we bill to the client, the longer the project is, the more money it is for them. So they try to squeeze the money out of us and literally try to do it within a couple of weeks, for instance, when you're doing strategy projects. So I feel that we literally get overworked because they want to get as less money from the work that we do. And sometimes your team does ask you to do work for a 8 a.m. meeting at 5 p.m. the day before, which is unrealistic because I have a life outside of work. At the end of the day, there's kind of two things I can see you doing. Either one, try and push back the deadline, or two, try to understand what deadlines are coming up and work your life and your other, work stuff that you got to do around it.
How satisfied are you with your work-life balance? So I quit investment banking for a reason, right? Especially during work from home, the lines between work and personal life can be blurred. Especially when you're working from home and everything is closed, the little bit of social aspects that you might have gotten from being in the office and talking to your colleagues is now gone. You essentially wake up in the morning and work until late at night at 1 or 2 a.m. and then go to sleep and then repeat for the next couple of months. You're even working on weekends. Of course, it can depend on which bank you're at, which group you're at. There's a lot of ebbs and flows in investment banking. Even in the office, the work-life balance isn't great. Again, on weekends, you can generally make brunch or dinner plans with your friends, but you can oftentimes expect that you will have to cancel them because work comes up. Or if you do go to brunch or dinner or even try to plan a day trip with your friends, which is difficult, you'll oftentimes have to bring your laptop on the journey with you.
I feel like a 1 out of 10 is so bad. I don't even know why they're still working at this firm. So I feel that in consulting, it's definitely much higher. People at work are so nice. The people that I work with, my partners are quite jokes. You obviously have a great social life with consulting. And the work that I do, I absolutely love it. So for someone to say that 2 out of 10 for the work life and 1 out of 10 for the personal life, I mean, why are you still doing banking? Come over to consulting. But I do feel that in the pandemic, it's definitely changed where I definitely am much less satisfied with work because I don't have that social aspect of being able to see my work colleagues or being able to travel to another country or to client side and, experience the free dinners, the free travel, going away and whatever it is. So the perks of consulting have definitely diminished since the pandemic happened. And my personal life has definitely increased in terms of rating since the pandemic happened, purely because I definitely can literally just watch TV after work now without having to bother commute. The commute was the worst part. So definitely happy to have the time back in my life right now.
Next, have you frequently experienced excessive micromanagement or monitoring? So in investment banking, I find that people generally fall into one of two categories. Either one, they are a micromanager, or two, they are a lazy manager. So for people who micromanage, it's because they feel a lot of stress and panic from the people above them, and so they'll end up doubling down on the people who are below them. They will constantly message you on Skype and chase you, asking you where the materials are and if they can see it. They'll have you send your work page by page to them rather than just finishing the whole product and sending it to them. They're constantly calling you and checking in and asking where different numbers are from. That is bucket one of a lot of people. And bucket two are just lazy managers. They are like glorified messengers. They're just the people in between. They don't give clear instructions or oftentimes any instructions at all. They don't do the work. They're just kind of like a pass-through system from the analyst to the managing director. Obviously, not everyone falls into those two categories, and it's really like a spectrum. People fall into different areas between the micromanager and the lazy manager.
I feel like this is very dependent because in consulting, you move to a new manager every project you're on. So I've had really good managers who definitely have just let me do my own thing, but there are definitely some managers who literally are micromanagers, and I am on one right now where literally, you know, every single detail wants to be seen, every slide walked through, and literally being asked what you're doing, where you're at, and all this stuff. So yeah, it feels like you're under surveillance. So it really depends on the manager that you're on. But otherwise, I think I've definitely had some really good experiences in consulting where you are respected. I think at the end of the day, it's all about respect in a way and trust.
Have your work hours negatively affected your relationship with your family and your friends? Oh, 100%. I was lucky in that my family lives in New York City, so it wasn't difficult to see them on a weekend. They could even come up and visit me in my apartment. However, given that for the majority of people, they are not so fortunate to have their family in New York City, and so they might only see them about once a year during a holiday period, or if they were to take their vacation days and spend it on visiting family. I remember during my internship, my parents had come to see me and they drove all the way to the office in the evening wanting to have dinner with me, only to be sitting in the car waiting until 12 a.m. at night because I could not leave the office. It's really unpredictable how long you'll have to stay. Sometimes things just keep coming up and you end up not being able to leave.
So 100% is a little bit too extreme, but let's say around 30 to 40% that is negatively impacted, you know, our friends and our family, because I do feel in consulting, you do sometimes work like long hours, people do commute. So by the time I came home, or even by the time I woke up, my family was sleeping. And by the time I came home, my family was sleeping and I used to eat dinner by myself. So it's not really a nice life. Like, you need to learn to be alone a lot of the time during the weekdays. On the weekends, you definitely do see your friends, but I do feel that like you don't really sometimes have those genuine talks with your friends because you're still thinking about work on the weekends. And also sometimes, I know lots of my friends do this, they just kind of party the weekend away because they get all that stress out for the whole weekday and just drink on the weekend, which is a little bit like their coping mechanism. I don't do that, but it's a bit sad and scary that I've seen certain consultants, and you know, a lot of bankers do that as well. So, and honestly, at the end of the day, your work is not your life. So find something which makes you a little bit happier. The dollar isn't everything when, you know, 100% of you are saying that it doesn't allow you to spend time with your friends and family. And at the end of the day, when you're 80, you want to remember those good memories with your friends and your family and not your work.
And so guys, that ends the video on an investment banker versus a consultant's view on the Goldman Sachs Working Conditions Survey. We did a video on Kajol's channel where we talk about investment banking versus consulting from many different viewpoints, from the point of interviews to work-life balance to salary. So check that video out. I'll include the link in the description box below. As always, if you enjoyed this video and like collabs like this, remember to smash that like button and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And lastly, if you're interested in joining my Discord chat, having one-on-one chats with me, as well as more guidance on investment banking and finance interviews, make sure to check out my Patreon. I'll include the link down in the description box below. It's patreon.com/AngelaSunX3. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye!